Scanning for audio.
Hey, you guys!
Alex Simmons.
Better known as the organizer of?
Oh, yes, as the founder, organizer, and major domo of the Kids Comic-Con.
Major or minor?
No, definitely major. Look at this girth, man. Yeah, there's no minor here, right?
That's lots and lots of years of comic book reading.
Lots and lots of years of eating while reading comic books. You know, you gotta work those two out. Yeah, everything in reach,
Full reach and then the book in the middle.
That's right.
So, can you tell us about how the Kids Comic-Con originated?
Yeah, that is a mouthful, isn't it? The Kids Comic-Con came together over a number of years. I mean, initially, I guess the best way I can tell the story is growing up, comics had a major part of my life, a major influence on my life. There were time periods when you couldn't get me near a library or a novel of any kind. I mean, my teachers had all kinds of problems with that, but I was always reading comic books. And a lot of my vocabulary increased because of the words I was reading in some of those comics, the ones that caught my interest. In those days, you had a lot more genre in comics than you do now. So, you had westerns, you had historical stuff, you had science fiction. So I had all these things, and I was fascinated by various aspects. And I would wind up in conversations with other friends of mine who read comics, and we'd get very heated about this story or that story, the plots or the characters, the powers or whatever. And some of my friends grew up, in one case, he went into science because he wanted to be like Reed Richards, and now he's got an actual career in science. So I knew the power of comics as entertainment, but also as inspiration. And I was noticing that over a period of from the late 70s through the early 90s, comic books moved totally away from kid audience. A lot of the writers and creators and publishers were doing stuff that was for a mature audience, whatever that means in your book. But it definitely wasn't being written at a level that most kids would either be allowed to read or should be reading. I also have problems with concepts of hero. I understand what an anti-hero is, but I'm also old enough and was then too to know the difference between a hero and an anti-hero and ethical choices and things like that. But a lot of the comics, heroes were doing things that we conceived as negative. So I kept saying, there's a lot of other books out there that younger kids and teens and so forth should be exposed to. Not wipe the slate clean of everything, but let's not ignore those other categories. And pursuing that and getting that knowledge out and that sort of element out there, I began to talk to a lot of other writers, publishers, and editors, and we all had the same feeling, but the conventions weren't speaking to it. So in, I think it was the late 90s, Blizzard took over the Chicago Con, and their first convention there, they let me do a kids' corner, where I had a certain square feet, and I was able to set up booths and tables, and we had mini workshops and panels and things. The same comic book artists and writers that you saw in the Batman books or whatever, but they were there talking about stuff that they did that was more appropriate for younger audiences, and also just on how to create, how do you make up stories, how do you write, how do you draw, all of that. Well, it was a big hit, but we didn't get to do it, at those conventions anymore. So then, a few years ago, the East Coast Black Age of Comic-Con, they asked, would you do a workshop? And I said, well, I'd like to do this thing I do, Kids Corner. And they looked into that and they said, that would be cool. So we did it once there, they loved it, and they've been doing it ever since. So that's been going on with them for about 6 years. So that's ECBOC. After that, I continued pursuing, trying to get it out there. A lot of people didn't feel there was any market for it or whatever. And then I met Eugene Adams, who's the Director of Educational Outreach here at BCC. And we got to talking. He let me come here and do some of my workshops with some of the middle schools and high schools that they're connected with and they do collaborations with. He asked me what I want to do after that. I said, how about professional development workshops where college students could come and meet people in the industry and realize this is a business as well, and there's all this ancillary connections. Maybe you're into accounting. Well, this is all money. This is money, this is career, this is how to balance your budget. So there was that. So we had a number of professionals come in, and we did that. We had over 150 students show up for that and jammed the room. And so many students were jammed in there that teachers going by went, wait a minute, check this out. So we had something like 10, 12 teachers standing up, checking this out. And the panel was very diverse. Men, women, black, white, Hispanic, you name it, talking about the industry and how I do what I do in that industry. Well, that was like phenomenal. And so then Gene made the mistake of asking me again, what do you want to do? He said, you haven't learned yet. You haven't learned yet, bro. So I said, I've always wanted to do a comic book convention for kids. And he said, fine, let's figure out how to do that here. And that was 2006, mid-part. By January of 2007, I figured I know 10 professionals who would do it. We'll get a small space here. We'll put the word out. We'll maybe get like 50 to 100 people from the community. It'll be a nice little event. And I'll feel like, I got that done.
And now 3 years later, you have a packed auditorium.
Well, the freaky thing was, it was Calvin Reed of Publishers Weekly that year wrote some piece in his online newsletter about it, that it was coming up. Within a week, I had something like 30 emails from people who wanted to be involved. And I said, whoa, this is not like you expect. It's not like those conventions where there's going to be all this money being passed and everything. This is for the kids, and this is this, and we're not charging at the door. And we want to be there, man. We want to do this. We want to do it for the kids, man. What can I donate? Well, what can I do there? What can I? All right, but just understand, people came. We had 40 some odd professionals here with tables. And we knew the word was out via flyers and stuff like that, but no big ads or anything. We had over 700 people come through the door. That was year one. Year two, there was more pros, more patrons. And now this is year three, and we've already gone through something like 400 bags, because we give away a bag of comics to every child who comes through that door. We've already gone through over 400 bags of comics and giveaways already. And it's what? 1240? Okay, the word is out. We have busloads coming down from Peekskill, Connecticut, from the Brooklyn. Out in the hinterlands of Brooklyn. And we're not near, great public transportation. I'm not knocking it, but we're up a hill and several blocks from the 4 train. And the closest thing that drops you here is the 3 bus right in front. But then you still got to angle to get to that. But folks are coming.
Now, when it comes to like the younger guys who are coming up to the bottom up, what surprises you is the hardest thing that they can't grasp?
You mean young artists trying to?
Artists or writers?
Well, depending on the population that I'm dealing with, universally it's writing. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that if you're going to make up a story, you have to write it. A lot of people who draw will draw the story, and they'll draw all the pretty pictures they see in their head. But then when you go to read it, the words don't quite work, the plot, the story's all over the place. Nice images, but it's not really a cohesive story. And when you start to ask them questions, well, that's because this and this happened. I said, yes, but it's not here. I can't follow.
To learn more about Alex Simmons and the Kids Comic Con, you can reach them at kidscomiccon.com. Once again, that's kidscomiccon.com. Feel free to visit and donate as much and as often as you want. Thanks again.